Yeah, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with you again for another edition of Skill Up Africa's monthly meetup. The last time we had discussions around using technology for global relevance, and today we'll be having a very interesting discussion around leveraging creativity and innovation for global relevance. And like you know, that in every edition that we always have people that are subject matter experts who have hands-on experience who will come to share part of their experience and work with us. So as you're joining us, you can drop your comments on the comment section. You can also just drop a message if you are an internal student. You can drop a message via WhatsApp. But if you are watching us strictly on Facebook or YouTube, you can just drop a comment in the comment section, and we will also take your feedback from there. So without further delays, I would like to begin to introduce our panelists for today so that we can get into the issue clearly. So, but let me just give a little of background. In the age of social media, with the advent of social media and the internet and a lot of things around, even the pandemic, you see that the way we live, the way the world operates have largely changed. And, we've seen a lot of innovation. We've seen in the last 10 years, many of us could not imagine that where we are today is where we would have been. And you will see how largely innovation and creativity has brought around a lot of changes. Whoever imagined that we'll be able to do a conference that everybody always traveled to, full-fledged online, maybe 2-3 years ago, many people would have never imagined that. I even watched some court proceedings online where the court was actually held online fully. There are a lot of possibilities that have come about through the innovation and imagination of people. Several people just think about one or two things, and it blossoms off to create innovative products, innovations that changes our life, make our lives better. And even now we are exploring going to Mars to see what is there or whatever things can happen there. Maybe you as a person have been thinking about this and have been wondering, where do you stand? And you've just been wondering. There's a question I used to ask people when I talk to young people frequently. I used to ask that, do you want to be the one that always buys the innovation, or you want to be the one who comes up with the innovation? And one day a kid asked me and said, I'm a young guy from it's a very remote place in Ibadan. And he asked me that, how will I ever be able to begin to create some of these things? So to him, in his head, he couldn't just wrap his head around how he can be someone creating some of this innovation that the world is interacting with. And I could relate with that. Maybe you are like that and you have questions around that. I'm sure that some of our panelists today will be able to help us unravel this mystery. And I will just introduce them briefly, then we'll get into the discussion right about that. So once again, you're welcome. Thank you for joining in. First person that I'll be introducing today is an author, and he's also a scientist. He's a man of many parts, actually. He's done quite a number of things that I would introduce to you way better when he begins to speak. But for now, I will just be bringing on Mr. Babatunde Oluwasegun. Mr. Babatunde Oluwasegun, morning. How are you today?
I'm fine. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, so nice to have you today. How is the weather? I hope you are doing very fine.
Yeah, we have fun in the UK. It's right
Oh, okay.
this time of the year, so yeah. It's summer course.
Interesting. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So the second person I'll be introducing is she's an experienced expert who worked closely with a lot of youths in Africa on different projects, and she's got a lot of experience and currently works, in the field of innovation. And I'm very sure that today she'll be, showing us a different perspective to this subject matter. Without further ado, I would like to bring forward my colleague and friend, Annette Sajri. How are you, Annette? How are you doing
Great, thanks.
today?
I'm good. I hope
Yeah,
everyone is good as well. Very excited to be
yeah,
here today with you.
yeah, very fine. It's so nice to have you here, Annette.
Thank you for
Okay.
inviting me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And lastly, I'll be introducing a brother and a friend, someone who I find difficult to even introduce him because he's into so many things in different aspects. He's a fabricator, he's an innovator. He called himself a is this serial experimentalist or something like that? And it's true actually because he just does. Sometimes you don't even know what is he doing because today he's making clocks, tomorrow is coding, next tomorrow, so it's a great pleasure to have Tunde Mo Aguda with us. Bros, you're
Hi,
welcome. How are you
thank you,
doing
thank you.
today?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah,
Good morning, good
yeah. I know
afternoon.
we had to keep you awake all the night because of the timing. We really appreciate it. Thank you
No
very much
problem,
for coming
no
on board.
problem, no problem. Good.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on board.
All right, all
Okay,
right.
so I would like to take your introductory comments because right about now, we would like to hear a bit about each of our panelists. We would like to hear a bit about your story, about your experience thus far. That's what we'll be doing now. But before we go into that, I want to hear, a bit of comments. Let's do that in just like 2 minutes about the introduction I shared. What's your own view about that?
Um, I think
About the introduction I shared about, yeah. Who wants to
Okay,
go first?
okay. I
Martin.
think one of the things you mentioned that caught my attention was about the little Ibadan boy that was wondering how can I go into creativity? How can I be creative? And over the years, in my experience, being creative comes with finding a solution to a problem. It could be a problem already ongoing or a problem that you foresee would happen anytime soon. So the ability to think outside the box and say, oh, how do I find a solution to this problem is what makes one creative. It's what creativity is all about. Being able to find solutions to problems. Thank you.
Hmm. Thank you very much for that insight. Thank you very much for that insight. Do we have anybody else that wants to just make a comment about that?
Sure. I've worked in kind of most of the different sectors, and what I've seen is, in order to solve problems and in order to apply your creativity, you really need to believe in yourself and kind of accept that what you're thinking and what you want to achieve might actually go against a lot of opinions and thought leaders and whatnot. So it needs immense guts to actually go and implement your solution to a problem that you know well and you're experiencing. So so whoever wants to be a problem solver, they need to believe in themselves as well.
Nice. Thank you very much, Annette, for that input.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
let me start this way. It's a pleasure to be here, and here's what I feel, and this is what I believe. When it comes to solving problems and when it comes to innovation, first free your mind and just throw yourself into the air like a kite, and the sky is the limit. I think creativity is something, when there's an argument that creativity is inborn and that you can actually learn it. I feel it's possible to learn creativity, and I do not want to believe that one can be limited to barriers or boundaries. So that's why I, as an example, I play within different spheres, and wherever the inspiration comes from, I follow the flow. So I feel the very first thing for the bad boy is to first believe that, free yourself, find things of interest, pick one interest. There's something that can always be done better. So that's how creativity starts. There's always something that can be done better.
That's a very great intro. There's always something that can be done with identifying a problem and seeing
Yeah.
yourself as someone who can solve it. Okay,
Yeah.
great, interesting. So I'll be starting by introducing the speakers one after the other, and hearing a bit more from each of the speakers. I'll be starting with Mr. Oluwasegun Babatunde, who is the founder of QV University. He's a Nigerian and a Belgian national. He has a bachelor's degree in biochemistry from the University of Ilorin, Nigeria, and a master's degree in management from Free University, Brussels. He is the founder of Qualitech Vibrant University. I'll be asking some questions about that. African foremost QMS and Innovations Development University is the brain behind NVID Code, Pay Me, Street Digits, and Storyboard. As a scientist with over 11 years of experience, he has found his passion in hands-on innovation development, cutting across healthcare, renewable energy, transportation, robotics, quality management, app and software development, and intellectual property rights protection. You're welcome, Mr. Shegun. Can you just it's this your bio calls
Yes.
for a lot of questions, and I would like to really ask you, can you tell us a bit about your background? Can you tell us a bit about your story, your journey thus far? I'll be glad if you can do that in about 5 minutes.
Absolutely. One of the things I picked from Bro Tunde Mo Aguda is this. He says something about learning to be creative. I think I'm a typical example of that. I didn't start out creative. I didn't start out to want to solve problems. I I learned to want to solve problems. So I can describe myself as that. Now my journey up to this moment has been rocky, I would say, but it has been interesting as well. Um, my first um, technology development, so to speak, um, came about as a scientist in reproductive medicine. I saw a need at that time, like um, working with human gamete, and a need to find alternative identification system other than what existed at the time was what spurred me, was what made me wanted to do something about it. The desire was there. I just wanted to do something about that. Like every every other center I saw in Africa does not have an identification system. Every other reproductive healthcare center I saw in Africa does not have an identification system. So I thought I could be the solution to that. Or rather, I thought I could be the vehicle to bring home the solution. And in doing that, it was a difficult task, I must say. It took several years, of course. Something that could have taken a year took several years. And that was pretty much hard on me and the people I had to work with. One of the learning curve, one of the things I could take home from there was statistics data capturing and all that is needed when you are trying to create a solution for Africa um, usually are not readily available. That's one. Two, the data can be useless when you get to the market, and these are facts. You can get lucky, and the data can actually prove to be useful, but in my understanding of the environment, it can be very, very daunting sometimes. But one other thing I learned as time went on was that there is a need to have an institution that the focus is to train up people, students that have uh, portfolios, that have cutting edge ideas, that want to just create, that all they want to do is to create. So there is a need for an institution of such size, of such magnitude. And that was where the idea to start QV University came about. Qualitech Vibrant University. The idea of Qualitech Vibrant University is to have an institution where technologies are developed, where innovations are being born day in, day out by students. And these innovations or these technologies are used to help advance the nation, to help advance the continent, and at the same time, bring money home. So that was the idea behind QV University. And I'm glad to tell you that we've acquired a 1 hectare of land in Abuja to that effect, and work will begin anytime soon. So I'm glad, I'm excited about that. I'm very, very excited about that. So yeah, so that has been something close to my heart, I would say, very close to my heart. And I'm happy that we're going to do great things, of course. And another thing, just before I go, is this. Beyond having a citadel of higher learning where people can develop innovations, we want our students to have a good grounding in quality management system. Because I believe quality management system is very pivotal to anything we could ever do, to any greatness we could ever achieve in Africa. Japan had it, and that's why Japan is this massive today. United Kingdom has it. United States has it. European countries have quality management system. From my experience working in Nigeria, working in Ghana, we do not really have quality management system. And it is the bedrock. It is where everything rests on. And that's why the name is Qualitech. Quality is key. And that's why it is Qualitech Vibrant, Vibrating Brand University. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that intro. Thank you for sharing with us. Okay, so I will be asking, a bit more specific questions as we go on. But next, I'll be introducing the next speaker. But before I do that, so what main issue, what main problem is the Qualitech University trying to solve? So do you think it's a problem of quality and not maybe exposure or opportunities? What do you think in terms of this?
I think exposure is definitely a big deal. One of the things I would always be grateful for is being both African and European. I haven't lived in Europe for more than a decade. Actually a decade, so to speak. I could see the difference. It's crystal clear. It's obvious that there's just so many things we are doing wrong back home, and those things I just took them in, and like going to your question that what could I say are the differences? The major difference is uh, the major difference is is mindset. I would say it's the psychology, and I don't know why we have that psychology, but I would say it is the psychology. And like I said, in the quality management system, we would have part of the package as a who have part of the package, part of the curriculum to change mindsets of our students, of our partnering scientists, of our engineers, of our friends all over the world. We would try as much as possible to to try to change our mindset, to see things better, to see possibilities, to be able to trust better, to be able to partner better, to be able to work as a team better, to be able to acquire skill faster better, to be able to be business savvy better. So yeah, in my experience back home, we lack a majority, or should I say, a lot of things that has to do with quality management system. And
Okay.
when I mean quality management system, it encompasses mindset, it encompasses standard operating procedures, it encompasses auditing, it encompasses all what have you, so to
I
speak.
understand. Thank you very much for that intro. So we'll get more to some of the things you mentioned as we continue. But right now, I would like to be introducing our second panelist, who is Annette Sergi from Estonia. She's passionate about emerging technologies and ICT for D. I think that's ICT for development, right? Okay, so Annette is focused on creating inclusive and better quality service for both the public and private sector. She's based in London. She currently works in the uh, economic growth team of a global development consultancy, focusing on providing creative and innovative solutions to build long-lasting positive impact. In particular, Annette works closely with governments and businesses to improve competitiveness, enhance performance, and contribute to sustainable growth sectors. Previously, she has been a senior manager at TransferWise, one of Europe's most successful fintechs, with a mission to take finance transparency and accessibility to all, as well as contribute to UN reporting on SDGs related to e-governance in Estonia. Annette holds a degree in Hispanic Studies and has been a team lead at ISEC, and the largest youth-run organization empowering young people to make a positive impact in the society. Okay, Annette, you're welcome once again. And I'll be asking you a different question. So you work a lot with young people in Africa and Europe and thereabout. What is your perspective to innovation when it comes to, do you think there is a lag? Do you think an average European and an average African can be creative or innovative in the same way if they are in the same environment? Do you even think that, so, we talk about some things in biology where they talk about your environment, then I can't remember now how your environment, then your innate abilities affect who or what you become. Do you think this comes to play, or it's just a level playing ground? What do you think in this perspective?
What an excellent question. It's really interesting to follow up that on the quality management perspective as well. From personal note, I believe innovation is something that you get to that only when you try again and again, and you try out different things and you pilot. It's a multidisciplinary opportunity to put different perspectives together and come up with creative, completely new solution, or take a science-based solution and put into a completely different context. And it doesn't matter where you're from, but the mindset really does make a difference. If from the beginning, from your childhood, you've been told to just follow the rules, it will be very difficult to be creative. There is a Spanish artist, Pablo Picasso, who said that the good taste is the enemy of good art. So I believe art and innovation can go quite hand in hand in creativeness. And if you just follow what other people think, or what is the correct way, it's extremely difficult. I'm currently working with IO in the European Union African Union Youth Initiative, and putting together African and European youth. I believe that's where the magic can happen. Just different perspectives, and I believe that's the sweet spots where we can see innovation and change happening. Yeah, that's it for now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Annette. Thank you for that. For that brief that you shared with us. Also, I would like to just briefly ask you, can you share also with us your background? Growing up, your experience till now, and you can just probably chip in spaces or times where creativity or innovation stood you out, in your journey thus far. Can you just share a bit with us?
Yeah, again, another good question. So I had a quite regular childhood. I found my way into books, so it opened a lot of doors for me, just to understand different walks of life and different ways of thinking about life. So through my professional life, I ended up firstly in a fintech company that was innovative itself. So kind of taking the old system, the banking system, and kind of applying a new way of solving this kind of issues of that particular sector. So that was my first moment when I kind of saw what it meant to what does a leadership in creativity and in innovation means. Understanding well the whole system, the problem, and then trying to solve the problem with a new way, building a completely new system in order to solve it. And then afterwards, I joined international development consultancy. So consultancy, we're only working with big systematic issues and supporting people from different walks of life. Also youth, also women, also basically everyone. And then one of the interesting projects that was there was supporting globally different private sector companies, and help them to understand that it doesn't matter what they sell, this will also affect young adolescent girls, and kind of understanding how that can provide a different kind of value, and if they don't think about it, they might actually do harm and not good. And this kind of really out of the box thinking. And now I'm currently actually working in a governmental agency of Estonia, and trying to marry the research, help that to reach entrepreneurs in Estonia, so that they can come up with new, stronger ideas and solve different kind of problems in the society.
So I would like to add this, just a brief comment. How much do you think Estonia is a country known for tech, startups and stuff? What do you think inspired that? Is there something about Estonians or the culture or something that just suit Estonia out? You can just share a bit with us.
Sure. Yeah, Estonia has done a lot of interesting things. So I'm very proud of it for sure. And definitely we are innovative and keep being innovative. What I believe that really pushed us was the political change in 90s, in early 90s, where we like young people were in power and they dreamed big. They wanted to solve problems. And one of the interesting things was that they didn't have enough money, perhaps, to provide all the public services that they wanted to, and they realized they need to start using different kind of online platforms to be able to provide all that up to the quality. And they just took they just had faith in themselves, and now we have 99% of the public services online, so everything we can do online as a citizen. So I believe it was the space that allowed us to innovate and dream, and no other kind of historical background that didn't hold us back. So we were able to dream. Yeah.
Wow, wow. So from what you're saying, the government, had a huge role to play in putting Estonia on the spotlight. That's interesting. Okay, so we hear from our top panelist before we now begin the panel session proper. Give me a minute. I'll be introducing. Okay, so our top panelist, whose name is Tunde Mo Aguda. I would like to know the full meaning of that Mo before we.
Starts with Moses, actually. It's my English name.
Oh, okay.
Moses.
Okay.
Moses.
Moses. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great, interesting. So he loves to describe himself as a serial experimentalist and a venture opportunist. think I have some questions on those two titles.
Okay.
He's a self-taught web and mobile developer with over 19 years experience in professional web and mobile solution development. Also a visual designer whose best tool is Adobe Photoshop, but originally 2001 HND graduate of quantity survey, from Yaba College of Technology, where he decided to pursue his dreams, a professional career in web development, in web and mobile development in the 90s when the internet newly arrived. Is the founder of quite a number of tech startups such as Ramp.ng, Flexwork, Loop, Signature.co, and most recently, Recommend Your Tailor. I think he has added e-invites to that list also.
Yeah.
He's a tech startup enthusiast and entrepreneur who believe in taking a risk at executing ideas as soon as they come to his head. He believes in trying out business ideas it's uh, despite it if they succeed or not at the very first attempt. In the last decade, he has focused on conceptualization and fabrication in the areas of recycling, upcycling, craft development that has led to the creation of several unique products, which are ideas from scratch. Worthy of mention are products such as display stand, suction, signal, tag, and most recently the vintage vinyl and flare clock series, which are made from old vinyl LP records and acrylic plastic. He's the lead developer at a web design and development firm he founded in 2003 called Related Consulting. He's married with two lovely kids. Is also an aspiring author of a book on his entrepreneurial journey so far titled The Life of a Venture Opportunist and Serial Entrepreneur, Experimentalist, sorry. Um, he also plays chess, writes social commentary, and loves to mentor aspiring tech entrepreneurs and startups. I think I should drink a bottle of water after that.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. So, we've said a lot about you. can you tell us a bit about your journey? So you went, why quantity survey? Quantity survey to mobile development to fabrication to, all
Okay,
other things. So
okay,
what's happening? What's happening? What's the skill? Yes.
okay. So quantity survey. Let me first explain. A good number of us that studied quantity survey probably originally wanted to do architecture. You understand? And when I started, while I was in school, and I got admission to study quantity survey in 1996, right? And my plan was, so I still tried my possible best to get into the architecture department, but by the time the list came out, it was exams, and I was like, oh, let me just continue with this course. Now, quantity survey is probably the second tier level of professionals after architects. We're more or less like the cost accountants or projects. And when I couldn't get architecture, I ended up in quantity survey. So that's how and why I studied quantity survey. So over the years, after a year or two, I think the same year that I started in Java Tech was when the internet started gradually gaining momentum. And worthy of note was that Java Tech was actually the first institution to have internet access. But that didn't necessarily translate to the fact that I had internet access at and in school, so I had to go out to go and learn. So over the years, I got curious about the fact that the world was getting connected, and the fact that you could, at a single click of a button, you could access information all over the world. So the curiosity was, how does this work? And I want to be part of it. So one thing led to another, and I started learning how to be a webmaster. While I was learning this, there was now the I now looked at it that, okay, should I still try and study architecture or focus on web development? Interestingly, because of creativity, because I was creatively inclined. I used to draw comics when I was young, talking of like probably from like 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 89, 90. I drew comics a lot. So automatically I wanted to become an architect. But when I found out that I could also be an architect of websites or web pages, there was no turning back. So that's why one way or the other, I decided to, if I couldn't get architecture, I ended up as an architect of websites and web solutions. So that's how I became an IT person. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for
Yeah.
that introduction. So
Yeah.
I would like to ask you,
Yeah.
just you now, and this launches us into the panel discussion session.
Yes.
Um, what do you think is the most important, for a young person who wants to explore their creativity, who wants to, get into the world of innovation for a change? What do you think is the most important thing for them to watch? Maybe attitude or skill or something. What do you think is the most important? Looking at your own journey, what do you think? What's the best advice you will give for somebody who willing to launch it?
Okay. So let me say this, that I was quite exposed at a very young age. I know I've talked about the sets of encyclopedias we had as when I was a kid, and we had probably like five different sets of encyclopedias. We had encyclopedias about general knowledge. I have encyclopedias about engineering. I had encyclopedias about medicine. We had encyclopedias about science and inventions. Now, unfortunately, the average Nigerian, or more or less Nigerians of nowadays, we don't actually open our minds to explore. And innovation is highly tied to knowledge. I have to say that innovation is highly tied to knowledge, and you realize that a good number of inventors and innovators actually have in-depth knowledge of a lot of things. And once you can try and tie that together with curiosity, then you find out that you try to explore new things, and that's it. But in relation to what you asked, young people today need to go back to the basics and be curious. We need to read things. We can't just stay in our simple world of the little we know and think we're going to create things. It's not going to work that way. We have to explore. We have to be very vast and try and explore wide and far. So that's I think those are my personal um, factors for who I became today. But
Thank you.
interestingly, that is possible with the internet. Interestingly,
Mm.
yeah,
Thank you very much, sir.
yeah, yeah.
Mr. Babatunde, what's your view on this? What do you think is the single most important thing for a young person who wants to really explore their one thing that I always see is that I think every one of us in one way or the other we are really creative even when I can remember when we were in the secondary school some people invented some viral games and stuff. You see some kids drawing. I had a friend who would draw in a whole 40 leaves book and draw and draw and draw. But I saw the friend like some months ago, and I was reminding him. I was like, it was like all those things. I'm not doing those things. And
Anymore.
the guy was. You understand? The guy was
Yeah.
really good then. So maybe he could have been a very great illustrator, or I don't know what the title is, something now. But he sees it like he said, no, all those things, I dropped all those things and stuff. And many of us display our creativity in different ways. For some people, it's drama, it's some people it's music, some people it's just the way you carry people around and stuff. And I noticed that all of these traits, one way or the other, shows up when we were young,
Yeah.
but identifying and making it better and growing it seems to be a challenge. What do you think we can do in this direction? What do you think parents, guardians, everybody needs to do to begin to identify these things and launch kids into creativity? For example, I, for one, was very curious when I was small. So I would open almost all the electronics in our house. I was always opening, and I found out that it was curiosity that was leading me because I would open it up, see the whole thing and thereabout, then close it up again. And I did that for everything in our house. You can imagine every single thing. And it seems that they saw me, I was beaten for doing that. And the more the beating, the less I wanted to try these things.
Bible.
And these things kind of draw me back. Do you get the point? So
Yeah.
probably the guy that was drawing in his book, maybe his mom warned him never to draw again, and he stopped that and things like that. What things do you think we need to begin to do for the young ones coming, behind us? What actions do you think we need to begin to put in place so that we can have more extremely creative and innovative people who grow after us?
Yeah. Um. Thank you for that question. Is that question for me?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you for that question. So these are my thoughts. Um. I think creativity, as it were, I think it can be likened to stem cells. For specific, I will call it totipotent stem cells. That is, a stem cells that can be propagated into any organ of the body. It can be propagated to make the heart, to make the tissues of the muscles, to make the kidney. It can be propagated to different organs in the body, or tissues, or cells. So what I mean by that is this: um, a creative mind can can propagate his or her idea towards music. It could be towards music. It could be towards carpentry. It could be towards painting. It could be towards anything. Just a mind, and that's the reason why you can see Will Smith being a very good actor and also a good rapper. So one man could actually be creative in diverse fields. You can see Isaac Newton making contribution in mathematics, in physics, in chemistry. Galileo Galilei doing more or less the same. So we have to understand that being creative is not always to a specific direction. Oh, I am studying biochemistry in school, then my creativity must be limited to anything biochemistry. No. A very good example would be Elon Musk. Boring company, SpaceX. He didn't study space travels or astronomy in school. All he did was physics and economics. Boring company, solar, electric cars, even. Oh, sorry, you cannot dance. I know that you cannot dance. So a child or a, a growing child or a young star or a young lady, so to speak, trying to be creative in this world, first needs to understand that whatever discipline you find yourself at this point in time does not define where your creativity will be directed towards. It could be anywhere. So, like they say, the sky is the limit. So
Okay,
that's
thank you very much for that. But
yeah.
so let me rephrase that question in this way.
Okay.
Um, you will see that some people in this world are able to leverage their creativity for maximum productivity, and you can begin to count several people. The majority of us are not able to do this. It's just like there seems to be like a barrier, you know. So, and you will notice that those that seem to cross that barrier, they are able to do it repeatedly. So, in the case of Elon Musk, he's done it tons and tons of time, and he's still going to continue to do that. We can bring it home and even mention a number of people around us. Do you understand? And even you, for example, or Mr. Tunde, you know, you once an idea come, you can push it, you can launch it out, you can start working with it, you can identify opportunities and push on with it. But a lot of people cannot do that. It just seems like there is a closed fence, and it's only those that make it out of that fence that are able to blossom. So, what do you think people can do largely? So, there's a young person looking at you right now who's got tons of ideas, always had tons of ideas, but is not able to, or doesn't have the capacity, or feels they don't have that capacity or the ability to launch out or to be able to do things creatively. Mr. Tunde, I would like to hear from you on this. What do you think um, a young, like the Ibadan boy I mentioned in my intro, can
Yeah.
do? Because I don't think there's anybody you will ask now that does not have ideas, that does not have. Everybody's got a lot of things,
Things they are
but not
thinking.
everybody is able to leverage that creativity for productivity. Mr. Tunde, I'd like to hear from you. What do you suggest in this manner?
Okay, so first things first. Let me go back to the basics and kind of talk. I'm going to rewind and look at the mistakes I made and try and use my mistakes as a learning curve for people. So
Okay.
one of the first mistakes I made was doing it all by myself, being that lone ranger, thinking that okay, I wanted everything of nothing, while I should have had something out of something. Do you understand? So the first things first is that when you have an idea, you you it's very dicey. You have to first understand that you need to look at it carefully in the area of having people to try and to an extent not necessarily critique it, but look at how realistic this idea is. So that's where it comes to the fact that don't try and work in isolation, right? Now for young people need mentoring, and young people need that support system. Now, unfortunately, that support system is still what we need to properly work on in Nigeria as a country. In Europe, fine. In US, fine. We have such things. But in Nigeria, we still need to work on our support system and advisory. So it's not necessarily support, it's just advisory and mentoring. Now, the fact remains that in the startups realm, what happens is this: you have to play your part. If you don't play your part, you don't expect someone to take all that risk for you. So you've got an idea, and this is something I learned about creativity. When your creativity moves from point A to point B, whereby it can be seen and it forms a shape. It's to an extent we call it in between innovation states. It might not be perfectly crystallized, but people need to kind of understand. You don't come. I mean, when people have ideas, do you understand? Ideas are probably nothing. You can tell me, oh, people reach out to me and say, oh, they've got ideas. It's going to change the world. You're the one that's going to tell me ideas are going to change the world. People have to an extent see that big picture. And not necessarily that you can't start telling me about, oh, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, it's going to be that. No, we don't. Let's not go that route. Let's go, what have you done? To an extent, how do I come in? What role do I play? So you're saying that, okay, so let me give you a clear example. Last when the pandemic started, businesses were grounded, right? And to an extent, when businesses started, when the world was opened up, whereby people could start going out, the lockdown, they lifted the lockdown in Nigeria. A client reached out to me and he had a party, he had an event, and he he said to me that, look at, due to the COVID-19 social distancing issue, he doesn't want physical cards, invitations to be shared. That what can we do whereby the invitations that he has, he could type the names of the guests on them and share them to them electronically, WhatsApp and email. Then I started looking at it that, okay, this is an opportunity to build a new thing. And that's how I work. Now I'm using myself and my client as an example. Now, bear in mind that it wasn't my client, it wasn't as if this came naturally from me, but my client played a major role. He identified a problem and he brought it to me, not because he felt I could solve it, but he felt I have the experience to kind of recommend or advise on what we could do. Boom, we created e-invites. And we built a technology whereby you could personalize your invitation. Then we went a step further and we put a layer of access codes whereby you could have an access code on the invite that they could use at the gate at the venue to verify if the guest matches with the name. So that's it. So what I'm saying is this: when it comes to ideas and innovation, let's use the word innovation and creativity. Let's stop looking at the Lone Ranger approach. Only me, only me, only me, only me. You have to build. You need to kind of crystallize things as a group, whereby it's either a mentor or advisory scenario, or you have people coming together to make it work. I'm not saying that one person can start something and start building it. Do you understand? But if you're going to solve a problem, there's that group effort that has to come into the picture. So that's my own opinion about this.
Thank you very much. Annette, what's your view about this? What would you like to share?
Like, yeah, I did quite similarly. So if you do have an idea, you are a problem solver, try to find people who can support you in this. And it can be 5 friends. And if you look at your 5 friends and none of them are supporting you in this kind of environment, then try to make new friends who can support you. Try to find hackathons. Try to find yes, maybe perhaps there's less support in certain countries, but now quite a lot of opportunities are global. Well, thanks to kind of pandemic as well. But there are opportunities out there. There's online hackathons. There are just to find creative minds who can support you, and sometimes fill the gaps that you don't have, and then you can support them with your knowledge. And I think that's the very first step that you can do. It's just few hours or few days, and you can see how to start moving, making new network, making opening up your network in that particular area.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. So I will ask a question that, we've had people have had several arguments about. Is creativity learned? Is it learned? Is it something you can learn, or is innate? What do you think? Do you think some people are just geniuses and they are just extremely creative, or it's something that you can go to a school, or by reading books, or by associating with people you can learn? What do you think about this? Annette,
Sorry
let
about
me hear from you.
I think we already kind of mentioned it. I think it is learned, that it's a mindset. It's, of course, I mean, depending on what you want to do. If you want to be creative and you want to tap into innovation, you do need to learn it. If you want to have smaller problems that are very rational, very specific, then you don't need that, and it will be perhaps even an obstacle for you if you're too creative, right? So I think we can all learn that, and it's just setting our mind to it.
Okay, great. Mr. Babatunde, what's your view on this? Do you really think there are some people that, they have creativity in their genes and they are exceptional? Maybe they are geniuses, have high IQ and stuff. Or do you think anybody that follows, due processes and thereabout, read books, associate well and thereabout, can also come out extremely creative? What's your view about that?
I think it's the two, actually. I think it's the two. It's not one. Some people, it's natural for them. They can easily just venture into something, and before you know it, they've come out with something new. But for some people, they have to learn it. They have to like retrain their minds, their thoughts. But that comes, of course, from desire. Like, I just want to find a solution to something.
Mm.
They might not even have a definitive area at that point when it is brewing in them. But the desire is what pushes them, and once they are desirous, they get to be. But just like everything in life, just like everything in life, how some people are just ordinarily born into a wealthy family. Do you understand? Some people are also born with the gift to create. Like, and that's why some people you see them having um when you check all the things they've created like 20 things. Um, let's look at Tesla, Nikola Tesla, for example. He was
Mm.
massively, massively creative. Up until this moment, nobody compares to him. Nobody on the face of earth. It just comes bam, bam, bam. He wanted to do everything. All he needed was to be able to live, to have two lives, or even more. So
More.
yes, yes, you can actually be desirous to be creative and become creative, or it can just be a gift to you, just like Nikola Tesla.
Interesting. Thank you very much. So from all what I've heard is that your environment, where you are born and all the resources at your disposal can aid your creativity naturally. So that makes it seem as if you are born with it. And even if you are not in this kind of, you can get into it nonetheless. And if we look at several people, we'll see different stories of people who were born into it and people that got into it. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for sharing that. Now, we've talked about you having an idea, creative idea, and creating it, bringing it out. Now, I know you will agree with me that it's another different ball game to now want to take that on a global level. And we are talking about leveraging creativity and innovation for global relevance. So I have an idea in Osun State, Nigeria, and I tried to create it. My community is enjoying it. It's working for people around me. I want to scale it to the whole nation. I want to scale it to the whole continent. I want to scale it to the whole world. we've seen a lot of great ideas, great businesses never leave their immediate uh, environment. They don't transcend, they don't go higher than that immediate. What do you think is necessary for this? Do you think it is fear, or it is lack of knowledge, or is then very close to that is what can people do to take their creativity? And I'm sure you will agree with me that there are different requirements from when you are playing locally to when you go global. So, what do you think can help somebody has an idea, created it, they want to launch globally? What things do you think it needs to do? What steps do you think such person needs to do? You can also share from your own perspective and story in sharing with this. Annette, I would like to start with you on this. For
Sure.
example,
So, yeah.
you've worked with TransferWise,
Mm,
and started from Estonia, and has now become something. I've used TransferWise a number of times. A lot of people all over the world have used it. What do you see that made them? And there are a lot of other people doing the same thing that TransferWise does in different countries. But TransferWise was able to move from just that, maybe the community they started to Estonia, then to the rest of the world. What
mm,
can you share as regards attracting the global market? What
mm,
steps do you think an innovative person should be looking out for?
mm. So first, it depends on what is the problem, right? So if you're solving a small problem, it might be a local problem, and solution is also local. But if we're talking about systematic change and innovation in a big scale, this is TransferWise is an amazing example for that, because the banking system is globally has been kind of it hasn't seen many changes, and now TransferWise came with TransferWise now called Wise.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah.
Wise came and kind of brought a solution to it that is applicable everywhere. So if you do have something in mind, then yeah, so it's just if you want to do something like that, then you need to bring a good solution. But if you have something smaller, I mean, not everyone comes up and starts this kind of systematic changes. You can just start with basic design principles. If you include people from different walks of life, different locations, then you can start understanding how your product will work and how can you localize your product globally, or solve problems, similar problems slightly differently depending on that cultural or geographical location. So I would recommend people really looking into design, like human-centered design. There's few principles that you can really easily apply and find the solutions, particularly for that particular people.
Thank you very much. I hear you clearly. So you said solve big problems, then do a lot of research, then put the right team and the right people in place too. Okay, Mr. Babatunde, would you like to share with us your
Yes,
perspective?
yes, I would. Um, I would also want to say something as regard transfer wise, which is now wise. Um, yeah, I think they also built on the brand of Estonia as a country that has successfully been able to go electronic, a government that is electronic. So bringing something like that to the world, they already have a form of a bank of um, integrity, so to speak, as a
Right.
country. So it was easier for them to build on that. And yeah,
Mm,
we cannot take that away from it at all. That was critical because nobody else has done what TransferWise is doing. I don't think
mm,
anybody has even competed with it as of now. Like, oh, let's just say, okay, we are on the corner too. If you cannot use TransferWise or Wise, you can use us. Nobody is doing that. Fine, people are having bank accounts and all, but you cannot have 10 bank accounts on a single account like you could with Wise. So I believe so. Now I'll go to my own point, which is which also is to support what Annette had already said. One of the very, very important things that one needs to do as a young creative is to understand that there is what they call multiple discovery. It's what multiple discovery is that you can be on another part of the world. You are just on your own, even in a farm. You can just be in a farm and a flash of genius just comes to you. It just comes to you like, oh, I want to build a machine that can turn the juice from cashew fruits, that can turn it into acid. You are just thinking it on a farmland. You're just thinking it as a probably you're a chemistry student in high school, and just that thought just came to your mind. You'll be shocked that someone in faraway India is thinking the same thing at the same time. You are not related, you've never communicated before in your life. That is possible, and it is called multiple discovery. Now, two people having the same idea, there's nothing bad in it. You can both go to market. Ojú ọ̀run tẹ́yẹ life arakanra. The whole the sky is so open that many birds can fly. So there's no problem with multiple discovery. The problem comes with if you follow the same business pattern, the same branding pattern. You have to change it a bit. Just the same way Facebook is a social media as Twitter, but Twitter is a micro blogging and Facebook is a mega blogging, such that Brotunde can write a story from morning to evening on it. You understand? So you have to change it in a way that you carve a niche for yourself, and that's what will separate you. The same thing that everyone else is doing is probably what you are doing, but you are doing it differently. And that's the bottom line. That is what we are selling. Of course, there will be a little twist here and there, but one has to be aware that there's multiple discoveries and there's nothing wrong with that. Because there's no new thing under the sun. There's really no new thing under the sun. Cars have been around for years. The only thing that is different is that we have EV cars now. It's still a car. If you can fuel a car now, it will take you there. That is even one of the reasons why if you file a patent now, it is almost impossible for you to get it. Because there's nothing new. We are just building on what someone has built before. We are just building on what someone has built before. Nothing new under the sun. So there's nothing wrong. It's the business strategy, and that comes with what Annette said. Do your research very well. What is Mr. A doing? What can I do differently? We are both selling cashew juice as acid. But how can I be different? Can my own be colored? Can my own have flavor? Do you understand? Acid doesn't need flavor, but what if someone just likes to smell an acid one time? Oh, I like the flavor. Oh, I'll take this over this. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. I hear you clearly. So to summarize what you said is that number one, talking about TransferWise and Estonia is to leverage opportunities, leverage available opportunities. Then you talked about uniqueness, be unique in your approach. So if you want to, so the approach you are deploying for the local community might be entirely different from what you enjoy for the country as a whole. I hear that clearly. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Tunde.
Okay. So I'm going to come with a spoiler and kind of digress, and I'm going to be a contrarian.
Okay.
Now, so I'm going to have a contrary view about the amazing things that Annette and Rachida have spoken about. But I come from the realist school of thought, and my realist school of thought says that, okay, so I play in the startup niche, and I unlike a net that is in a very well-defined climb whereby there's a lot of support systems. I want to look at things from a Nigerian perspective. And when I saw the topic, I knew I was going to actually have to play this role of trying to alter or kind of have
play
a contrary. Yeah, play the
Yeah.
yes, that's the word. That's the word. Play the devil's advocate. You see, this is the fact, and I'm speaking as an African, and I'm speaking as a Nigerian, and I'm speaking as someone from a developing country, world country. You see, let's call a spade a spade. If you come from a country like Nigeria and you're trying to build a solution that's going to break even into the global audience, you're going to be fighting the wrong battle. You can't catch up with Silicon Valley. Why? Because we don't have that support system. Now, I want to use two examples. Let's talk about Paystack. Let's talk about Flutterwave. What happened? Who funded them? With all sense of humility. Yes, with all sense of humility. If Paystack did not make it to the Y Combinator cohort, there would not be a Paystack with Noasa today.
I agree.
Now, what am I telling you? What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is this, right? The Paystack and the Flutterwave model is probably what every startup should try to do, right? But the global audience is quite a very Herculean task. And when you kind of give yourself targets and milestones that people now ask you, why exactly are you trying to achieve this milestone? Then I have a problem with that. Now, the African continent, do you know how massive and virgin the African continent is for a startup? Which African startup is in all 50-something African countries? None. I say it again, none. Can we make it happen? Yes, we can make it happen. But that is if we put so much grit and tenacity and effort into it. So what I'm saying is this. Probably things will get better. Our governments will start supporting us. What Estonia is doing, I don't think Nigeria is even prepared to start doing that. And when it comes to an idea, Africa is still a very, very virgin land for innovation. Just like everybody keeps saying, there's really nothing new. We're just kind of doing it better and doing it in a different way. And I look at it this way, that if I have an idea, the first thing I need to do is make sure that my idea is well received in Nigeria, first of all. Yes, it might be ahead of its time or something, but after it's received in Nigeria, the next thing I'm thinking of how to move to other sub-Saharan African countries, trying to go to Ghana, I'm trying to get to Kenya, I'm trying to get to Rwanda, trying to get to Tanzania, I'm trying to get into Egypt and other. Let's not even start talking about Arab-speaking sub-Saharan African countries. Let's even first talk about our West African countries. How many of our solutions break even into Francophone countries? Do you understand? How many African startups, how many Nigerian startups are in Togo or in Benin? Do you understand? So the big picture, the truth of it is that.
Sorry to cut you. What do you think is responsible for this?
Okay, so first things first is that we've got so many problems we're dealing with. First of all, with all sense of humility, our policies and government regulations just keep on killing startups. They keep killing startups. A startup starts today. They can, before you know it, a government policy alters the whole balance. What do you want these startup founders to do? They just get frustrated and some of them just shut them down. They just don't move further. But another thing I want to say is this, is that we need to look, co-founders need to collaborate more. I keep on saying this, we need to collaborate more. There's nothing stopping a Nigerian startup from having co-founders from other African countries. There's nothing stopping a startup to, from the word go, not think of itself as a Nigerian product.
Company.
But look at, yeah, you should look at there's nothing stopping you from there's not stopping us from not having me like saying, okay, I have an idea, and I look at the big picture and I look at how I can start collaborations with a South African, someone from Kenya, someone from Ghana. Why? Because the next thing I'm trying to do is to make sure that there's a Ghanaian, South African, Kenyan hybrid of my solution, so that they can run concurrently. You see, when these things happen, then this is when people now take us more seriously. The Ugandan president recently said about he doesn't understand the impression African leaders paint when they have to fly to places like France to discuss African problems. He doesn't understand the kind of impressions we give. And I share in his sentiments. The fact remains that if we can't get funding locally from government, it's okay to look outward. But when we look outward, what we keep on doing is this: we keep getting the funding, come back to Nigeria, keep playing large, keep playing within the Nigerian space, and don't even think about growth out of Nigeria into Africa. So what I'm saying is this: is that I wouldn't. It's not as if I'm limiting. I don't want us to limit African Nigerian startups, but I wouldn't want us to start seeing things from setting standards whereby I'm using TransferWise or Wise as it's called now as my yardstick, because Estonia and Nigeria are two different countries, please. They're two different countries, and and we have to really understand the fact that support is everything. Support is everything. That I advise. That's why I keep on talking about advisory. If my advice for young people today is that fine, I'm going to put it down maybe 3 or 4 steps. Fine, you got an idea, right? And you can't do it on your own. Get as much as possible co-founders that specialize in a different area. Now, first, try and bring your idea to life. Don't make it something that you have to tell someone. Let someone see it work. Second step, try as much as possible to get the attention of people like Y Combinator, 500 Startups, Techstars. Now, when you get into the cohorts, please, once the funding starts coming in, rather than keep playing within just your Nigerian sphere, look at how you can even, part of your ask is to say that the funds we're raising is going to enable us to move into some other African countries. Now, when you start moving into some African countries, let us kind of scale as fast as possible. The big picture of saying we're trying to look at trying to become a global product. I pray one day we can have a product that we can truly say is global. But as it stands right now, our product, the African market is massive enough. And I think the technology that developing countries, European and America churns out, and India churns out, wow, I think it's going to be a Herculean task. But like I said, I don't want to limit us, but I just want us to know that we can play on an African scale and still create impact. That's it.
Yeah, I like your view to this. So you're saying rather than want to just jump from Nigeria and go global, why not try to conquer Africa first, where there is a right market and the market with lesser competition in quotes and thereabout, and a market that you are meant to even know a bit more. So when you become Pan-African, it will be easier for you to now get to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's a wonderful strategy. Annette and Mr. Babatunde, do you want to say anything to that?
Yeah.
Given that he went another direction compared to what you said earlier.
I would like to quickly say something, then Annette can, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think in agreement with what Brotune said, the buying power in Africa is also a problem. The poverty is a major challenge. Like, if someone cannot, yes,
is it? So let me also play the devil's advocate. Nigerians are the biggest spenders in France. They are also the biggest spenders in Dubai and maybe even when it comes to real estate and thereabout, Nigerians are so. Is the poverty really an issue?
Yes, and I will say this: you have to look at the percentage. It's a population of 200 million people. What percentage of that is buying from France? Is buying from USA? Is buying from Dubai? What percentage of that? And that is actually a major problem. If you have a population that high, people expect a lot from you. But then, when you make a product for 200 million people and 1 million turn out for it, then why would you want to invest so much when you can just go to Holland there that virtually the entire populace will buy? Do you understand? So it's the problem of poverty makes it a little bit hard and affects the buying power. So that is also a major problem, and that is difficult to fix, so to speak. Then also is the infrastructure. So the infrastructure also limits what you can do or what you can offer. So sometimes it's easier for you to make a product that you know they have infrastructure to adopt it in the US, they have the infrastructure to adopt it in Europe, than to make a product where there is no electricity 24/7. So these are innate issues that we have. These are issues that are key. In fact, um, as a founder of QV University, one of my primary goal is to solve power problem to a large extent. Of course, we're not going to fix all the power problem, but at least we want to be self-sufficient on our campus, that we have power to distribute, to use in different departments, in our laboratories, in our workshops, engineering workshops, in different parts of the institution. But that is still just fixing a few people's problem. So, yeah, going global, that's if you really have something global to offer, you can still go global, really. Do you understand? It will be harder for you to succeed in Nigeria with your invention than to take it abroad, really. It will be harder because the people cannot buy. The majority cannot buy. How many people?
Is that a statement of fact that it will be harder to succeed in Nigeria than? I think, Mr.
No,
Today, you want to
if
say
you have a global product, if you have a product that appeals globally,
something?
I
Yeah.
think it will be harder for you to succeed in
Uh,
Nigeria.
okay. The thing that let's start this way, and I keep saying this is that I don't want us to make things rocket science, right?
Yeah.
Startup ideas don't have to be rocket science, and when we keep on using the word global product and making it look as if they can't buy, let's use Kenya for instance. M-Pesa, right? And when M-Pesa started way before we started USSD in Nigeria, right?
Yes.
And yeah, and the truth about it is that M-Pesa, when tech writers wrote about M-Pesa, they categorically stated that M-Pesa was a technology that they were wowed about. Why? Because a lot of even in America, they don't use the kind of M-Pesa technology. Why? Because it cuts to the grassroots. You see, when we keep on iterating solutions, please let us tell ourselves the truth. Are we really creating solutions that impact lives and that people can afford? Why would I create a solution that people can't afford? Well, we're looking at numbers, right? And you mentioned something. You talked about 1 million people. That 1 million people are buying your solution out of a population of 200 people. You see, one thing I tell a lot of people is this: is that when we create pitch decks, this problem you mentioned comes from pitch decks. And I stay categorically, it comes from our pitch deck. You show me a pitch deck and you identify a problem. And the next thing you're telling me, the total, what's it? Is it total? Total
addressable market.
Yes, you see, let's not get things twisted. Total addressable market has led a lot of investors, has led a lot of startups to pitch things to investors that gives a total wrong signal. 200, you're talking about 200 million people,
Yes.
and 1 million people are using your solution. Come on. 1 million people you have tried as a startup. If you are telling someone, if you're an investor in a company, that 1 million people are using a solution out of 200 million people, come on, you have tried. And this is where I want us to be realistic. That is that when it comes to solutions and when it comes to startups, let us make sure that we do not shoot ourselves in the foot trying to achieve everything. You know, you're talking about Europe, you're talking about America. Do you know what it takes? Now we need to. I don't want us to turn this into kind of a back and forth thing. So I'm just going to summarize it that what you're talking about, I'm presently also trying it out. I'm trying. I'm my e-invites. I'm trying to start my e-invites from the US than from Nigeria. But I've learned something. Charity begins at home, and I'm never going to take that for granted. Charity always begins at home, because when you start charity at home, you have people that understand what you've created. You have people that know where you're coming from. Now I'm coming from the US. I didn't attend Harvard. I didn't go to Stanford. I didn't go to Yale. And this is another thing we didn't talk about. And I don't want us to open the pedigree of where the startup founders finished from. So I don't want us to go into that. Let us build things. Let us try as much as possible to scale things and let things happen. But when we start looking at the big picture that, oh, globalization, global, I have to go global, I have to global, we miss the actual point. We miss the actual point. So that is my own point. Like I said, this is from a realistic point of view. You see, as a startup founder, especially in tech, when you experience failure, you go back to the drawing board. You tell yourself the truth, and you celebrate your little wins.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to celebrate the very, very little wins, and that is what I want a lot of people to see. That you don't just take Paystack, Flutterwave, and because they've done big things, you now feel the next thing is like you're supposed to be the next Paystack. I see people tell me, "Oh, the idea can be the next Paystack." Dude, like seriously?
Be your own stack.
Yeah. So that's it. So let's try as much as possible to enjoy what we're doing. Do you understand? Let's first enjoy what we're doing. When we get a lot of things right, you got the advisory, you got the right team. People like 500 startups, people like Y Combinator, people like Techstars are going to come in. Once funding starts coming into the picture, please don't lose focus. Don't lose focus. So that's it for me.
Okay. Thank you very much for that contribution. Annette, I would like to hear from you as regards this. What's your view about this?
It's very hard to follow after this kind of great conversation. But I mean, we went very fast to this global perspective, and we definitely had missed a few steps. And I love that you focused on what you focused on, Tunde. Like, it's really important to just start building and keep going. And I really loved also the idea to focus on Western Africa. Why to grow? Like, just start from somewhere and then evaluate, then pivot, then see what's next, how to continue. And there are some global support systems also slowly building, and there are opportunities to tap into it. Just Google, research, network, find these creative minds who are just supporting this difficult journey. Trying out and building out and seeing if it goes somewhere or not is hard. It's constantly. It makes you just have to fail in order to go to your next challenge, and then not to fail, right? So, and this might be a very long loop. So I agree with a lot of the ideas that was said, of course. But very, very interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Thank very much. So I want us to see this from. So we've talked about the company trying to seek global relevance. Let's talk about skills now. I'm an illustrator. I'm a designer. I'm a developer. I want to scale. I want to, I want to begin to attract, maybe I'm a freelancer, I want to begin to attract the global market, or I want to relocate and I want to be well properly positioned. The narrative in the olden days was that people from places like Africa migrate to the US and Europe and they're about to do menial jobs. But that narrative is changing now because we're having skilled people migrate to take on skilled jobs. So, as a skilled person trying to seek global relevance, trying to, get out to the world, or maybe like what many companies in Nigeria are doing now, which our company is doing too, is to begin to see how we can serve global clients. So we are a service company. We are not a startup now. We are trying to see how we can provide support, tech support for our global clients, or I'm just a freelancer, I'm a developer, I'm a designer, or anybody in the creative, and I want to be well positioned, work remotely for companies abroad, or just serve them as freelancers. What barriers do you think are in this space, or what things do you think I should do to be able to leverage my creativity and innovation?
Okay, so let me try and take this. I
Okay.
think so. Let me give a US perspective, right? And tech jobs, tech jobs are quite available here and are in abundance in the US. And one thing I tell people is this: is that you don't give excuses. You understand? Don't give excuses. Rather than give excuses, try and act upon whatever situation you find yourself in. So there are a lot of people like your skill up Africa, Andela of old, university, like I think what's my brother Joseph. Yeah, a lot of a lot, yeah, a lot of there's so many places whereby you can learn skills. And I keep saying something, you have to be intentional, you have to be purposeful, you have to be deliberate. Now, when you're deliberate, it sets you apart because you don't know the opportunity you have if you're in tech, because tech opens doors for you. Tech changes your story, your narrative. I know a lot of people that when they started tech, I know how they started. And first of all, if you want to leave the country, that's not a problem. I repeat, it's not a problem. Why? Because you get your good paying job, you get your visa, and you can live the life you want to live. But the important thing is this: is be purposeful, be intentional, be deliberate, learn new skills, and don't stay idle, don't stay in a silo. Don't just keep yourself in one place and say, oh, you've learned this and it stops there. Well, probably for people like me, which I'm looking at retirement, I'll be looking at retirement very soon. Yes, I can achieve, I can afford to do this, right? But if you're young and what you studied in school was biochemistry, polymer and textile, there's so many courses you can even first start for free on YouTube and first download as many videos as possible. Then you now get try and put money together and start taking courses in Udemy and other places. Do you understand? So that's what in a nutshell, when it comes to being global, I think this conversation is actually for people that want to actually show what they are made up of as an individual that wants to show his skill, work for a company, and not even look at it from a startup perspective. The sky is the limit. The sky is the limit. We've got before it was those days that we said that Indians are the best developers in the world. We have super good coders from Nigeria now. We have super good coders from Kenya. We have super good coders from Ghana. So that's what that someone is trying to make it look like, it has to be a European that can code. The same job opportunity that they get, you also get. You might start as a junior developer and all that, but you're going to climb that ladder. So I want people to just learn skills and just use those skills to get themselves out of whatever current situation they have. Giving excuses will never solve this issue we're talking about. So that's it.
Thank you so much for that advice. Thank you very much for that advice. Um, uh, Mr. Babatunde, Annette, you want to also lend your voice on this?
Yeah, just also working in the tech, I've seen how it is. Everyone are welcome. You just have to have the skills, and you can learn it and on your own as well. You don't have to go to an official education journey for that. So it just you can really push yourself and seek out for more experiences and kind of see different perspectives. But I'm a big fan of people who go abroad and then go back home. So that's why I'm also back home. So definitely have in mind what you're learning and then get back so you can apply that and bring that creativity to your home country.
That's Thank you very much for adding that. That because it's not only about going out and exploring. It's
Yeah,
also good to be able to
something
what
back
you've
home.
experienced and come back home to make things better. Thank you very much, Annette, for that. Mr. Babatunde, let's hear from you as regards that.
Yeah. I think what I would add to that is that if you have the intention of moving abroad or working abroad, so to speak, I think you can also try to research less traveled road.
Hmm.
Everybody is going into tech now. Everybody is going into coding. Nobody is going into human genome project. Nobody is going
Hmm.
into machineries. Nobody is going into robotics.
Hmm.
So we have to also look at other areas that are less traveled roads because that would make because before you know it now, computers now start coding themselves, and then you are out of job. In fact, Google already has that. So why don't you find something that not so many people are are going into? I think that created an opportunity for me in life when I moved to Belgium. I amongst my friends, I think I'm one of the very first few to get to quickly get a job because I chose a road less traveled. So yeah, it's very important that we are not all going into coding. In fact, there is an area that is less, much more less regarded. What I mean by that is people don't even regard it so much. Is management. What I mean by
Yeah.
management is that all these
Product management.
new all these new projects, new coding, new robotics, new machineries and everything that people are doing. Who is going to ensure they are properly managed? I'm not talking about going to school to have a master's in management. Yeah, I have a master's in management. No, I'm not talking about that. Someone that ensures that everything fits together and
Product
becomes
management.
a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Can some people just focus on that? Those people that do not even have the strength to code or do not have the the understanding to know how to code, but they understand how things can fit together and become a well-oiled machine. So these are less traveled roads. You just need to do your research, find out which one do I think I have the strength to to achieve in these things, and then follow it through and engage yourself with different people that could see that strength. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much for that
That's exciting.
perspective. Yeah, it is. You wanted to say something, Mr. Today, you want to say something?
Okay, so a little correction is the fact that I'm talking in terms of I'm in tech, right? So that's why I talk to tech, and I totally agree with you. In fact, let me be very honest. I know very few people in his role in the space that he is in. So for me, he's an authority in his space, and
I don't even think I know anything.
I kind of wonder how he does what he does, but it's his space anyway. So that's why I'm saying this. I'm talking from my own tech perspective, right? Not trying to say, oh, it has to be strictly tech. We all know that tech is still hot. I will not say, I will not deny that. And tech still offers a lot of opportunities. And then let me even ask, because we could be saying this. I do not know how easy it is to assimilate all the things you put in your head, because that's another thing. Because this his role, what he does is not. I've always wondered, how does he do it? But like I said, I may be wrong, I might be assuming. But another thing I feel is that a lot of people tend to kind of shy away from things that blow their brains. Because to me, what he's doing is rocket science. I won't deny that fact. All the things he does in his day-to-day job is rocket science to me. So that's my honest
Thank you
opinion.
very much. So there is a comment from Emmanuel Akogu, and he's saying that he quite agrees with this, that tech increases the chances of travel and exploring different parts of the world. He said, but I've also seen situations where being a Nigerian alone is already a disadvantage. He now said, how can one overcome this menace, at least to be at par with other folks vying for the same role? And I'll put some context to this. You know, one of the guys I mentor was sharing with me recently how a client who they have done onboarding with, they've settled everything, talked about the charges and everything, and the client just casually asked that, what part of the world are you from? And the guy said Nigeria. And the client was like, excuse me? And he said Nigeria. And they were like, okay, we'll get back to you. And that was the end of the discussion. You know, we know that because of the age of the cyber crime and stuff like that, a lot of wrong perspectives have been created in the mind. And I'm directing this question to Annette first. Uh, you
Yeah,
know,
I
a lot
like
of wrong
to.
perspectives, yeah, a lot of wrong perspectives have been created and the likes, and even lately. So because I was talking to one of my foreign clients, and the person was telling me that actually the main issue is that, forget the cybercrime and everything thing, is that Nigerians come with a lot of complaints like there's no internet, there's no power, and thereabout. So engaging you, and those complaints kind of affect your deliverables, right? So that's why most companies just don't want to engage you. They just be like, okay, you are from there, no problems. We'll find somebody else who have lesser challenges than you do that can do the job.
Mm.
You get the point. And next, I want you to speak to the misconception about Nigerians, and in terms of fraud and the likes. What's your own perspective to this, or do you have that kind of misconception? Do you have that kind of view about it too? Have you heard
Yeah.
of the
So
Nigerian prince thing before?
So thankfully, I've worked a lot with different people, and I've worked in a project in Nigeria, and I don't have that wrong misconception. However, I do understand, comparing that just to Estonia, how Estonia is quite Northern European country, so the culture is very much Eastern European culture, and this Nordic culture can marry things together. And the same kind of goes with Eastern European culture. There's a lot of there has been and there is still misconception. So 20 years ago, people didn't know Estonia. 10 years ago, people still didn't know Estonia. It was very much, I had to explain where I'm from. And that kind of Eastern European misconception came in quite often. And then kind of some negative connotations with it. So when we are at this stage, I believe as individuals, we need to decide on the story that we want to bring. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm just saying we're making the story. I believe that Nigeria is right now writing a new story, and it's perhaps also in 30 years, like Estonia has a different kind of brand and is known for different things. It is hard, but we need to stand up for ourselves and show what do we bring to the table and not shy away. So I mean, this is really unfortunate example that you brought, right? But we are like the ambassadors of our own country, and we need to show the different sides to it. So maybe that's my 5 cents to this topic.
Oh, okay, as a side note, I would like to ask you, Annette. So, do you think being an Estonian will increase your chances of getting a job or something? You know what?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh,
So like,
Good
I'm
question.
for a role, I say I'm from Estonia. They're like, wow, from Estonia, you have the job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me answer that for her.
Okay, I need to test it out. I was like, okay, who's gonna hire me today? But I guess I don't think it will directly because every person is still different. I mean, there is Estonians who still don't, maybe they're not digitally aware of things, and it's not what they're interested in. It can happen as well. You know, everyone not they're not the same. The fact that I could vote online doesn't mean I might care about the digital solutions. But it is a small country that created such a strong identity, and they innovated. I mean, we didn't have any of that, you know, and we completely just tested, piloted, and then kind of here we are. So I guess I can piggyback a bit on that Estonian identity sometimes, just because now it's more known. But I don't think I will ever be hired just because of my nationality.
But at least you agree that it will not have a negative impact on you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I have something
Yeah.
to say there, though.
Okay.
I think I have something to say. Yeah.
Okay, please.
Being a Nigerian can definitely be a problem for you when you are trying to get a foreign job. But I think maybe the past has dealt us a bad hand. I think we can recreate the future we want. For example, when I was writing my first book, I sent out invitations to editors, Nigerian editors, and yeah, I got feedback. And one of them, the first time he was complaining about someone being sick in family. The second time he was complaining about something, and I already chose not to choose him. I mean, I already made up my mind that I was not going to go up with him, in the sense that if I have a family issue, if my mom is sick and I'm in the hospital, I would never tell anybody. I'll be in the hospital with her. I'll be doing everything. And if you gave me a job, the only reason why I would not take the job is I will tell you that I think I'm busy now. I cannot take the job and drop the job. But I will not be telling you my family stories over and over. And Nigerians are known to do that a lot. Even me as a Nigerian, I would not accept that. Because I know as a Nigerian, if my mom is sick and I'm in the hospital, is either I cancel that job or I make sure I do the job as I'm taking care of my mom.
Sorry to come in. Do you think it's a cultural thing, or people are just lackadaisical or something? What do you think?
I think people are just lackadaisical. I think people are lackadaisical and they think they can take advantage of people and they think they can access your emotion and they think they can blackmail you with that. And that is dubious. That is dubious. You know, I won't accept it. You know why? I'm glad that I'm Nigerian and at the same time I'm European. I've worked with Europeans, a lot of them. I don't hear that stories. Do you know what a European will tell you? At least the ones I've worked with. They will tell you if they know they cannot manage the sickness of their mom and the job, they will just cancel that. They are not doing again. Can you find someone else to take up the job? It's that simple. You don't have to take every job. So, yeah, it's a cultural problem. Like, you just tell the truth the way it is. When you cannot manage, just say it. It's not too difficult. You don't have to die trying to do a job. Sincerely, I did. Because if my mom is sick, my mother, I love my mother. If she's sick, it's either I try to do the job and take care of my mom and ensure I do a good job, or I cancel the job. You understand? If I know I am able to compartmentalize by reaching my emotion, like managing my emotion, my mom is sick and doing the job. You see some people, they show it in movies now. You see some people, they have their laptop and their loved one is sick. They are working and they are sitting beside their loved one in the hospital. Yeah, because you want to get that job done. That's the same way. That does not have to do with do you have electricity or not. And in terms of electricity and everything, if you know you are doing coding, then you should be prepared. You should have a generator if there is no electricity. Don't give that excuse to your client.
Or generators in some
Yeah,
cases.
or generators as a backup plan. Thank you.
One might not be enough.
Yeah. Now,
Okay, so what is your advice? I want us to do this.
Yeah, I'll finish this very
What's
fast.
your advice for for a way forward?
The advice is
Then I'll come to Mr. Tunde. Yeah.
Okay, advice, right?
Let me finish
So
this.
I want to take his advice, then I'll come to you for your own comment.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your advice? Mr. Babatunde, what's your advice?
Him.
Babatunde or Tunde?
No, Babatunde.
Okay, that's me. Okay, so my advice is this. You do not have to tell people where you are from when you are working with them. You don't have to.
Okay.
It is not legally required. If you are lucky that your name is not Babatunde,
what if it's legally required? What if it's legally required? What if it's legally required?
No, why do I have to? I'm coding for you.
I can see Annette's expression to that.
Yeah. Why do I have to? It's discrimination. If you're asking me where I am from, it's racism. So why? Why do you want to know? What you have to know is that, can I get the job done?
Well,
yeah, can I get the job done? Yes.
It's very European. No, it was just very European. I do know that in some European countries, when you even apply jobs, you're not supposed to put like photos or like your age or anything, just to not to have any like limit the discrimination. But it is very difficult. I mean, when I start working with someone, I want to know where they're from. What's their story that they bring to the team? You know, how can we leverage your experience and my experience? And part of where you're brought up just brings that good stuff. You know, when of course if the team is focused on the positive side, then I would be looking at this. But yeah, it is secondary. If you have like a project work that you have tight deadlines and stuff, it really doesn't matter where you come from in that sense. But if you think about like long-term corporations, then I might have a tiny bit different opinion on this.
Yeah, I would really like to try to show you what I can do. Do you understand?
Yeah, absolutely.
Such that where I am from might not eventually matter. So yeah. And because I know that there's nothing I can change. I'm a Nigerian. I can't change that. It is what I am dealt. Do you understand? I tell a wall. So now that is the case, what I have to do is that I don't have to tell you where I am from. Because I don't want to lie. So I don't have to tell you where I am from. Just let me, okay, you know what? Let me just show you a sample of what I can do. Showing them a lot of stuffs that they would choose not to even look at where you are from. Show them for free. Because you know that's where you can get the dollars. That's where you can get the pounds. That's where you can get the euro. You don't have the euro in Nigeria, right? No, not so many people want you to code for them. So yeah, of course, you will lose some people from that. But yeah, that's it. But you do not have to tell them. In fact, this is it. If they ask for it and you say, I don't have to tell you, I just have to do the job for you. And if they say they want to go, they would go eventually if they find out you're Nigerian. So, go.
Okay, wow. Mr. Tunde, let me hear, what's your perspective about this?
Okay, so I've been tech and what has said.
As a Nigerian who works from Nigeria mostly, I know you're in the US now, but you work mainly.
Okay, and yeah, from my realistic point of view, I don't want to start an argument, but today, a lot of these employers and people that outsource jobs are going to ask for your nationality, and there are no two ways about it. So you can just remove the phobia and the skepticism and tell them straight up, what's yours is yours. What isn't yours isn't yours. It ends that way. So I look at it that way. But I wouldn't recommend your route for younger people, because your route kind of gives a suspicious kind of mindset into the picture. and when you're not trying to tell me the country you're from, because I've experienced it before and I do it a lot. Because so some 15 years ago, I used to work. I wasn't even a freelancer. I used to outsource, right? And I outsourced a lot to guys in India, Pakistan, Indonesia, and I'm trying to remember that Malaysia. No, not Malaysia. There's another very strong country like that. I think it's yeah, Bangladesh or Romania. No, I think it's Romania. It's Romania.
Yeah, Romania. Yeah.
So true story. True story. I was taught a hard lesson with a Romanian guy, and I outrightly wanted to make sure my developer was not Romanian. True story. So what I'm saying is this: is that sometimes these things are not necessarily due to the fact that someone wants to be racist, right? But sometimes people have experiences which they just don't want to relate again with that country, that nationality. The good thing is this: is that when it comes to development, coding development, web development is quite different from us transacting. If we were trying to buy something and you knew I was Nigerian, I think there's a 99 possibility of that you might not want to transact with me. But when it comes to development, I think it's a totally different ballgame. The competence of us West Africans is not in question, and East Africans, right? We have a very, very high capacity to deliver. Well, I noticed the word that I used. I did not mention Nigerian, right? So I've been part of Demo Africa twice. Demo 2013 in Nairobi, then I was in Demo 2016 in South Africa, and I was on the fireside chat. And one thing that they clearly acknowledge is the fact that our skill sets are really, really high. Our skill sets are really, really high. So probably whoever is denying you a job because you're Nigerian, I think he's an uninformed person. I think he's a person that is uninformed, and the only thing that you can do is try to educate the person so that he doesn't keep on making these mistakes. There are a lot of jobs out there, and personally, I think rather than keep on focusing on outsourcing, I think I'll advise people to also try to be like Baba today and also get out. Get out of the country and work and live in diaspora and be working from diaspora, because the plan B thing comes into the picture. So that's it. But in general, I think it's things are getting better, and I don't want to look at things from the negative side these days. I have to look at things from the positive side. So yeah, things are getting better.
Thank you very much. It's been such an awesome time that I didn't notice that it's been 2 hours already.
And I was like,
yeah, wow. It's been 2 hours.
Yeah.
As much as I would love for us to continue, we have to bring it to a close now. It's been such an interesting time with you guys, and I really, really appreciate your contributions. So as a parting note, I would like each of us to just, sum up everything. There are still several things I want to ask and everything, but we have to just go because of the time. So as a passing note, I would like you to just give a summary, an advice, and an admonition. So anybody can go first.
Sure, I will do it very simple one. Just a small advice for everyone who might have not listened to all of this, but just start doing, just building, trying out, expand your networks. People who are your friends do also limit you and also put you up in a platform. So you really do expand your networks and just start from somewhere. There are always different kind of limitations or barriers, but if you don't start, you will never figure out the barriers because you didn't start. So that's my quick summary from my side.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll build on what Annette has said. And your networks, the people you associate with really matters. Try as much as possible to explore, keep reading, keep trying to understand some things work. Curiosity doesn't really kill in some cases, but in some cases it kills. But positive curiosity works, and trying to make things better is and a 100% approach that I've used personally. And for younger people that are looking at coming into tech or looking at starting a career in whatever it is that they're doing, I think it's worthy of note that to realize that you have to start from somewhere, and don't start as a lone ranger. Try to seek advice, try to seek help, try to ask questions. And there are a lot of people that are watching. There are a lot of people that are watching that have the the idle money to pump into some ventures. Don't jump at some investors and like, hey, yeah, this is the next big thing. Don't be the one to say this is the next big thing. Just be calm, make it work as much as possible, make it bug free. Then don't think your first edition or your very first version is the end. Facebook, remember Facebook from some 15 years ago, right? Remember Facebook 10 years ago, right? Remember Facebook 5 years ago, right? So that's so that's how it works. It's just going to keep getting better. So and that's what I want people to have in mind. Rome wasn't built in a day. End of story.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Babatunde. Please, you can go ahead.
Yeah, for younger upcoming creatives and established creatives, my advice, my parting gift to you is to protect your intellectual property as much as you can. Copyright comes directly with any of your intellectual property. The trademark can give it some form of protection, and if possible, you can patent it locally, and eventually you can do it for the global filing. So protect your intellectual property because you never know. You never know.
What it can be. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing in that issue of IP. It's really very important, right? It's what determines whether you get reward for your effort or everything goes to a waste. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's been such an amazing time with you. And on these notes, we'll be rounding up today. Mr. Ademola Morebise couldn't make it today for some unforeseen circumstances, but he has decided to have a panel session, like a training session, sorry, tomorrow. So we'll be having a training session tomorrow. We'll be sharing the information about that for those that want to join in. He will be talking exclusively on creativity and innovation. So we'll be having an hour, exclusive training session. So if you want to join, you can use the same link you used in registering for this to join, and we'll share more information on that. So on this note, I want to say thank you very much for coming. It's been such an amazing moment. For those that miss the live show or miss part of it, you'll be able to watch the replay immediately after now on YouTube or on Facebook, and it will be there for as long as possible. So thank you, everyone. Once again, keep creating, keep innovating, and keep skilling up, and change your world, change Africa, change yourself, and we'll all be better for it. Thank you very much. See you all.